Hello and welcome to the Idaho Renaissance Fair Inc.'s YouTube page. We are coming back at you with part 2. We got Josh Danes here, our wonderful dungeon master. So you remember correctly from our very first one, we talked about kind of how a dungeon master should be approaching their scenes, what their plan is, how they're going to go about it. And we promised that the next time we came together, we'd actually talk about character creation. So, at this point in your story, and correct me if I'm wrong, at this point in the story, the Dungeon Master has a rough idea of Chapter 1. This is how we are going to start. This is how the party is going to get together. This is the part where we start building the party.
This is where we start building the party. The party that we're looking at, and we talked about it in the last video. We're going to be humans. All humans.
All humans. Simple. Because
Right?
this is just to help you in your first run as a DM. If you're going to be DMing, this is just the very basics. You can get fancy after you have experience.
It's an all-human party. So we are going to be building one of the party members. And it's
My
gonna
party
be
member.
Tyson's character. So we're going to start in the player's handbook.
Because remember, there's two different handbooks. There's the Dungeon Master's Handbook, and that tells you about the NPCs, the monsters, and the terrain and stuff like that.
Yes.
This is for me.
This is for the players. This is for the party members. If you are not a dungeon master, this is the only book you need. Chapter 1 is creating your character.
Which is perfect for us.
It's exactly what we want. And it goes step by step how to make your character. So, looking through this, the very first step is choosing a race. We already know this is a human village we're coming from, so it is human. Now,
Right at the top here, there's a little thing. It says race.
And so the thing with that is your different races, your different species or bloodlines, as you will, have different things that go into them. This is why you would want to choose an elf over a dwarf or a tiefling or one of these other different species races out there is because they give different benefits. Humans starts on page 29. And it gives you a basic idea of what a human is in the fantasy setting. We all know what we are because we're all humans, but in a fantasy setting, what is a human? What makes a human human?
And if I'm not mistaken, most of the time if you play as a human character, at least from Skyrim experience and stuff like that, a human is a mid-tier. They're not super great at anything. They're not super bad at anything. They are just really middle of the playing field.
Correct. Humans are kind of your jack of all trades when it comes to what type of person you're playing in general. So basic human traits, and it gives you some variant human traits you can go with as well. And different versions of Dungeons and Dragons have had different traits for humans, but it's always been centered around the idea that while a human isn't specialized for one thing, right? Like elves are supposedly specialized for magic, dwarves are specialized for endurance and strength. Humans aren't specialized for any one thing, but they have they make up for it in having multiple different parts of a master of none, but better than a master of one, is what that saying is. The full saying: jack of all trades, master of none, but better than a master of one. Because if you are proficient in multiple things, and this goes into your own personal life too. If you're proficient in multiple things and knowledgeable in multiple things, you're far better off than just being an absolute know-it-all about one thing.
Yeah. You may be a professional bolt tightener, but being a professional bolt tightener won't make your car run.
Exactly. So, human traits. Ability score increase. This is something that we haven't really talked about because we're just starting this. But ability scores, if you look at your sheet, on the very left-hand side, now this is the sheet from the book. So on the very left-hand side, there's these 6 boxes. Ability scores is your strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. I was trying to get the order right. Those are the things that you use to determine how well you perform at different tasks throughout the game. So we'll figure out what your actual ability scores are in a little while. But as a human, you get a +1 to every single one of them. So I would just write down, personally, this is a personal thing, in the upper left-hand corner or just outside the box for that ability score, +1. So that you know when you are figuring out your ability scores, you know what, after you've rolled them or picked your number or whatever method you use, you know to add that 1 to wherever it goes. So that's the first one. Age. Humans reach adulthood in their late teens and live less than a century.
Which we established in our story. All of our characters are teenagers. They're older teens, basically right out of high school, 18,
19 years old. I don't think there's a place on this page. There might be on the next page for you to put age. It's not most important thing in most people's campaigns because age doesn't do much other than for roleplay purposes. Alignment.
That's always important. Are you a bad guy? Are you a good guy? Like, are you chaotic?
Size is the next human trait. This is going to be, humans are, I'll read it from here, humans vary widely in height and build from barely 5 feet to well over 6 feet tall. Regardless of your position in that range, your size is medium. Now that's important when you're looking at the maps in combat. A medium character, and I'm going to word it this way specifically, a medium character threatens a 5-foot square space.
Around them.
And I've seen people go, I don't understand that. And the best way to think about it is when you're in combat as a human, if you are holding a sword, you are threatening anyone within 5 feet of you, and then anyone on the next 5 feet out, you're threatening them as well. So your space takes up on a grid a 5-foot area because that is your personal stance. And when you are in a sword fight, a duel, or anything like that, getting within that 5 feet actually renders the fight next to impossible. Maybe if you're fighting with fists, that's a different story. But even then, when you're fighting with fists, you stand fairly far apart. You don't get right up like this when you're boxing.
Because you have no room to get the velocity behind your swing.
Yeah. A large creature,
like a troll,
threatens a 10-foot space instead of a 5-foot space. So they actually take up 10 feet, and then they threaten the area around that.
A really good way to think about it, if you've seen Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, he has a moment where these giant trolls are cooking, and he's a hobbit. He's a very small character compared to Gandalf the Grey, who's a very large human, let's just realistically. And so you watch how they interact with each other. A much more massive creature can threaten a much larger space. Mm-hmm. A smaller character, such as Bilbo Baggins, he's not threatening as much because he doesn't have the reach. That's what all of this is playing into. It's giving you the realism. It's giving you the boundaries so that even though you're not actually fighting, this isn't LARPing, this is Dungeons and Dragons.
It's on a table with pen and paper.
Yeah. You have set areas where people are at.
So the next human trait in here is speed. Your base walking speed, and that's this one right here, is 30. What that means is you can move 30 feet per round. And that goes into combat tactics, but a round, and we'll go on a small segue here, a round in combat is 6 seconds worth of time. Okay? So your turn, the next player's turn, all the way through. It all takes place in a 6-second little block. Now, one round I have seen take a half an hour for everything to play out in a single round, but it's all taking place in a single 6-second block of time. So then the last one is languages. You can read and write. Common. Languages, I write
other
down here in this
proficiencies.
box.
Okay. So it's in the bottom left corner right over here. And it says specifically other proficiencies and languages. If you're an elf and you've been around for 1,000 years, you probably know stuff.
So, humans, you can speak, read, and write common, and one extra language of your choice. So I would just put a dash right there for now. Those are the human traits: your ability score increase, your age, your alignment, your size, your speed, and languages. So, going back to your step-by-step character building, we have the race.
Human.
Go ahead and pick your name, because typically that's when you pick your name as well, is when you are working through your race. It gives a whole bunch. In the human, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different nationalities from one setting within the D&D franchise. The setting specifically is the Forgotten Realms setting. And so there are 9 different nationalities that are listed here, or ethnicities, however you want to look at these. Probably more ethnicities, because it discusses hair color, eye color, skin color, things like that. But it gives example names in the book. So when you're picking your race, you're a human, so name.
So I thought more historically. So on my mom's side, we are the saddlers. In England, we were saddle makers. A lot of times people, their last names came from the job they did. So my guy is now Danny Shepherd. I have established a whole lot of fact with just that name. Where he's coming from, what he does, what his family does. They're shepherds. Danny is probably his dad's name.
Picking your name, we've got the name. Choose a class is the next step. So, I was thinking about what kind of classes a shepherd would fill, or someone from a small town in particular. But we're going to go to the contents, to the table of contents, and we're going to read the class names. You have barbarians.
Where am I going to be writing this?
Class.
Oh, class. It's right up here in the top. Okay.
So you have your barbarians. A barbarian is really easy to understand the concept of. It's someone who just basically likes to fight.
Yeah.
They have a class ability that is called Rage, and it gives them bonuses in their fighting to their physical stats. So barbarian. You have Bard. A Bard is a magic casting class. They use music and art to cast their magic. They have bad connotations because a lot of people have taken it in weird ways in the past, but they don't have to necessarily fill that expectation.
Yeah, you can have a strong Bard. They're not the wimpy character. They have use.
And they don't have to. The big meme about Bards is that they seduce everything. They don't have to.
Yeah.
You have Cleric. A Cleric is going to be someone who works inside of the religion, right? Of whatever religion it is. Druid is an individual who works more with the forest. Druids also have kind of their own secret language. You have Fighter. This is going to be where a lot of your knights and your town's guardsmen and people who fight but don't know how to utilize that rage to give them the boost, those are going to be your fighters. You've got monks. Those are people who don't really like to use weapons that much. Think martial artists. Paladin. A paladin in previous editions was a lot more structured than in this edition, in that they had specific things they had to follow. They had to have a specific deity. They had to have a specific vow that they're keeping. But they are frontline fighters who can also cast magic. You've got rangers. Rangers also are a mixed class where they can do physical damage, but they can also cast magic. My favorite idea for what a ranger actually is, and it kind of discusses a little bit in the book, is they're the people who go out and police the wilds for the big monsters to keep the settlements safe. You have your rogues. Now, most people think of a rogue as someone who is a thief. That's not necessarily true. Rogues do have a lot of like sleight of hand and lock picking and things like that, But you know who else has all of those skills in our modern day society? Police officers. Right? If you're locked out of your car, you can walk up to a police officer, say, "Hey, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm locked out of my car. Can you help me out?" And if they're a decent person, they will actually pull a Slim Jim out of their police car and pop the lock for you. Right? Police officers have those same skills that the criminals have so that they can properly investigate and properly take care of things. So a rogue doesn't have to be a thief. A rogue could be an investigator, and that's actually a potential subclass in later books that came out after this for 5th edition. Some of the supplemental books, investigator is a rogue subclass. If you think about your fantastical and fun stories, Batman fills the rogue role really, really, really well. Now, the Dark Knight Batman fills more of a paladin role. But the original Batman from the comics fills that rogue role because he is sneaky, he's stealthy, he doesn't focus on doing a whole lot of damage. He focuses on finding out what's going on. He's a detective, he's an investigator. So, moving down the class list is the Sorcerer. These are people who have magic born into their blood. Previous editions talked about how sorcerers were descended from dragons. They have draconic blood in them, and that gives them a source to reach out and grab the magic. You have warlocks. These are people who have made a pact with an otherworldly being. And the book actually talks about things like fae. It mentions devils. It mentions great old ones if you're a fan of Cthulhu. Other expanded books talk about warlocks that have pacts with gods, like celestial beings, or with genies. They have made a pact with a genie, but they get their magic because they've made a pact with this deity or this otherworldly being or whoever, and that being is able to then teach them and give them the ability to tap into a specific number of spells. And then the last class in the book is Wizard, and the Wizard in Dungeons and Dragons is much more akin to the wizard in Harry Potter than the wizard in The Lord of the Rings. Because the big thing that separates the wizard from all the rest of the classes is the wizard studies and learns by themselves, book reading. They carry around the big magic spellbook tome. They carry all of those things. And they can learn an infinite number of spells as long as it's on the wizard class. They can learn all the spells because that's what a wizard does. So those are the classes.
Personally, whenever I'm playing a game that allows me to pick my class and stuff like that, I always go fighter. It's just my preferred class. It's something I'm comfortable with. I don't have to try and come up with this really elaborate, sneaky way of doing anything. I do not enjoy sneaky games. I do enjoy sniping. That's different. If I'm not going to play Hitman or something like that where I have to be really quiet and, oh no, you tipped off the town guards and now everyone hates you. Like, no.
So you don't like Assassin's Creed?
No, I do not like Assassin's Creed. I'm not good at it. I don't appreciate it. I am one of those that will rage start fighting everyone because you know what? Even if I lose, at least I win in a ball of glory. So fighting fits better with me personally. And my character, I picked his height at 5'8". Most of the time back in the day, people were shorter anyway, so it's an appropriate size for someone of that era. So for my guy, I am going to pick fighter.
Okay, so we are going to look up the fighters.
That is class and level?
Yes, class and level. So class is fighter, and then your level is going to be 1. I would just kind of scoot that over or put a slash and then 1.
1.
Yep.
Okay, and that went right in the top. Everything has been going right up top so far.
Yep.
Either there or right here on this page as well.
Page 45, it is chapter 3. Fighter itself begins on page 70. Now, human, you're not going to look back at that racial page for much of anything. You might refer back to it a couple of times for role-playing purposes. Fighter, you're going to look at this the most out of just about everything else. Every time that you level up, you're going to come back to this page. Every time that you are looking at, well, what is this thing that I have? I have written down this feature, this ability, from my class, a trait. What does it mean? You're going to come back here, and it's all right here in the book.
Cool.
So we're going to start with level 1, right?
Makes sense.
So proficiency bonus is a +2.
Proficiency, right here.
Yep.
+2. Right here. Doink.
Okay. Features over here. This time it is the bottom right box.
Yeah. Right here.
That box says features and traits. You get 2 features at level 1. The first is your fighting style.
Do I have to actually name it, or?
We're going to look here.
Okay.
So
what I did is I wrote down fighting style and then I underlined it.
Yep. So if you look further in the book, it gives you your fighting style. Next page, so page 72 at this point. Fighting style. You adopt a particular style of fighting as your speciality. Choose one of the following options. You can't take a fighting style option more than once. So there is archery, defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, protection, or 2-weapon fighting. And then it gives a description of what that means as you go.
So, again, personal preference. Whenever I pick, I just want to bludgeon everything to death. It's a very fun way for me to go. So, great weapon fighting is going to be it. My guy, Danny, is probably going to have a club that he doesn't have to be really good and finessing with. He's just like, Hulk smash! And that's how it's going to go.
Yep.
So, to the great weapon fighting.
So that would be your deal. And then you're going to want to put a summary of what it is. When you roll, I'm going to read this. When you roll a 1 or a 2 on a damage die for an attack you make with a melee weapon that you are wielding with 2 hands, you can re-roll the die, and you must use the new roll, even if the new roll is a 1 or a 2. The weapon must have the 2-handed or versatile property for you to gain this benefit.
So if I have a single-handed sword, I don't get to take advantage of that. But if I have a claymore and I can cleave a horse in 2 with it, and I roll a 1 on my attack, I can re-roll that.
Mm-hmm. Or you stated a club, right? If you have a police baton, you don't get that. If you have a baseball bat, you're going to get that. So that is the fighting style that he chose. Great weapon fighting.
And the way I described it in here is great weapon fighting, roll 1 or 2 when fighting with big weapon, re-roll. It's very simple. I will understand what that means.
I am going to have you put 1 or 2 DMG for damage
dice, yeah.
Because you have to, when you're fighting, you have to make 2 different rolls. You have to make your attack roll, and then if you succeed on the attack, you roll your damage roll. So, it's very important. The other feature that you get is second wind. So we're going to turn the page again, and we're going to look at the features that are on this page. Fighting style is here. The next one in line is second wind. And they don't put your features from your class in alphabetical order. They put them in the order that you get them so that it's easy to find. Second wind, you have a limited well of stamina that you can draw on to protect yourself from harm. On your turn, you can use a bonus action to regain hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. Once you use this feature, you must finish a short or long rest before you can use it again.
Gotcha.
So this is, if you're in the middle of a fight and your health drops too low, you can activate this ability and heal yourself.
Okay, so here's how I described it. Extra stamina, use bonus action to swap for health, 1d10. So as long as I still have stamina to use, I can heal myself and potentially save myself.
I am going to point out, it's not just 1d10, it's 1d10 plus your fighter level.
Plus level.
So make sure that is plus level. And that comes really handy because if you roll a 10 and you're level 1, you get 11 hit points. If you roll a 10 and you're level 10, you get 20 hit points. Same dice, way different result. So.
Valid.
Okay, so that is your features from your class. Next, we're going to look at this. Down here, and I'll flip it around. This is the fighter page. Down here, it's the start of your class features, but this section here gives you a lot of very vital information for your character. So, the first one it gives you is hit points. And it breaks it down into 3 different areas, but the first thing it says is...
Current hit points right here.
Yep. So the first thing it says is hit dice, which is this box here.
Right underneath.
Yep, right there.
Here. So current hit points, hit box dice.
That is hit dice. Hit dice. So you're just going to put 1d10.
For the hit dice.
Okay. Now that comes important when you are looking at adventuring, and specifically a thing called a short rest. What a short rest is that when you are in the middle of, let's say you're in the middle of a dungeon, you're fighting a bunch of monsters, you guys are low on health, you can take an hour to sit and wait, and during that hour, you can roll up to how many ever hit dice you have available for the day. And you get, so at level 1, you get 1 hit dice. At level 10, you have 10 hit dice you can roll. Each of those is a d10. And on a short rest, let's say you're in the middle of this dungeon, you're getting ready to go up against the boss, you've been hurt, you're going to take some time, you're going to take an hour, you're going to roll a hit dice. You're going to roll that d10, right? Now, you're going to roll the d10 and you're going to add your constitution modifier, and we'll get into that again in just a little bit. That's your ability scores. You're going to add the constitution modifier, and that's what you heal. And you can roll as many of those d10 as you need to, right? So you roll it, you add the constitution modifier. You roll it, you add the constitution until you're back at full health if you want. And then you still have your second win that's available. Now, the trick is you only get the number of hit dice that you have per level for the day. You have to take an 8-hour rest to reset that. So if you stop 2 or 3 times to take your short rest, and on your first time you roll 2 hit dice and you're level 10, right? So you roll 2 hit dice. On your next one, you can only roll up to 8 because your pool of hit dice is depleting as you use them. So that's very, very important for healing in the middle of a dungeon. So the next thing on the list under your hit points is hit points at first level. So this is important. It's going to be 10 plus your constitution modifier. Okay. You always get your maximum hit points at first level. So we're just going to put a pin there because we don't have your constitution score yet.
Gotcha.
So, but so that you know, it is going to be your hit dice plus your constitution modifier. And then hit points at higher levels, it actually gives you an option in the player's handbook. Most people that I play with like to roll their hit points. So it is going to be a d10 plus your constitution modifier. Or you can go with the average of what a d10 rolls. And it lists that out in the player's handbook. It is 6. A d10 averages a 6. So 6 plus your constitution modifier if you want to simplify your hit point rolls. The next section in the class features we're going to look at is proficiencies.
Which we got the proficiency bonus earlier as the +2.
Yep. And we'll get into that. So proficiencies, we're gonna start with this box where it says other proficiencies.
Right.
Okay. Armor.
Do I write armor down?
All armor and shields. So you can write that you are proficient with all armor and shields. It's important because you have to be proficient with a thing in order to use it. If you don't know how to wear chainmail and how to move in chainmail, you're going to make mistakes when you're in a fight.
So all armor and shields.
And shields, yes.
Okay.
So weapons. You are proficient in simple weapons, martial weapons,
okay,
and that's it. Simple and martial weapons. Tools, you have no tool proficiencies as a fighter.
So I'm not going to build anything.
You're not as a fighter. Now we'll get back to that in a minute too. Saving throws. This is this box up here.
Which is right here. So I just wrote all of my proficiencies and everything down here. Saving throws is right here.
Yep. Saving throws, you get proficiency in strength and constitution. So you'll see on your character sheet, you will have a bubble, and then a line, and then whatever it is coming after it. In the saving throws, it's going to be your strength, dex, con, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Under your skills, it's going to be whatever the skill is. But it's going to be the bubble, a line, and then whatever it is that that bubble represents.
Right.
So fill in the bubble for strength and constitution.
Okay. Strength, constitution.
Okay. So what that means is when you are asked to make a strength saving throw. All right. Now, strength saving throw is something that a DM is going to ask for if, let's say, you are trying to hold up the gate before it falls on the rest of your party. That's a strength saving throw, to hold that up. He could also make it be an athletics check, which is a skill down here. But he very well could make it a strength saving throw. A lot of spells or traps will ask you to make saving throws. And so strength and constitution. Constitution saving throws are how you deal with poison. Somebody slips a little poison into your drink, and you don't notice it because you have a poor perception. And nobody else at your table sees it because they're all listening to the music or at the bathroom or something like that, right? You take your drink. Me as the DM, I'm going to ask you to make a constitution saving throw. And if you meet or beat the difficulty check, the DC, of that saving throw, then you're fine. If you don't, then bad things happen.
Right.
Makes
Makes sense.
So you failed, bad things happen. So, and then this continues over on the next one. It goes skills. You get to choose. Now, I'm not going to make you fill in bubbles just yet. So I want you to write these down on the back.
Okay.
Choose 2 skills from acrobatics, animal handling, athletics, history, insight, intimidation, perception, and survival.
And I get to pick 2?
You get to pick 2, but we're not going to pick them just yet. So it also gives you some starting equipment. You start with the following equipment in addition to the equipment granted by your background.
Which is right here, right in the middle.
Yep.
Okay.
So you start with, and you get to choose, chainmail or leather armor. Sorry, A, chainmail, or B, leather armor, longbow, and 20 arrows.
Well, as a shepherd, it would probably be leather armor. Metal would be expensive, but he could easily make his own leather armor.
Yep. So you would get the leather armor, the longbow, and the 20 arrows.
Would I put B in the top?
No, so these smaller boxes are your coins.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay, so leather armor and
a longbow and 20 arrows. Which, for a shepherd, makes sense.
Gotta protect the sheep.
Yep.
Plus, if you're hungry, go shoot a rabbit. Stuff.
Mm-hmm. So then your next selection that you can choose from is either A, martial weapon and a shield, or B, 2 martial weapons.
Probably 2 martial weapons.
No shield.
Because, I mean, a shield would be really uncomfortable for a shepherd to have.
So, just write down for now 2 martial weapons. We'll pick those weapons in a bit. Your third option is either a light crossbow with 20 bolts or 2 hand axes.
Hand axes. I already got the bow.
As a shepherd, hand axes. It makes more sense. And then the last one is a Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack.
Explorer's pack.
And I would say the same for a shepherd. In chapter, I believe it's chapter 6, where it goes into what the equipment is, you can actually, there is a place where it goes into what the different packs have in them. So an explorer's pack has a backpack, a bedroll, a mess kit, a tinderbox, 10 torches, 10 days worth of rations, a water skin, and 50 feet of rope.
Yeah.
A Dungeoneer's pack is a backpack, a crowbar, a hammer, 10 pitons, which For those of you that don't know, a piton is what you can hammer into a cliffside so that you can hang things from the cliff or so that you can climb the cliff. 10 torches, a tinderbox, 10 days of rations and water skin, and 50 feet of rope. So the difference is, are you going to be going into caves or are you going to be in the forest?
Right. As a shepherd, it's the forest.
So, very good choices as far as that goes. Now we're going to get to the ability scores.
Which is the strength, dexterity, constitution?
The strength, the dexterity, the constitution, all of that.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. So, for ability scores, there are different options on how to choose your ability scores. Two most common options are known as an array or as rolling your ability scores. An array gives you a specific set of numbers you can use. It is the easiest because you can only use those numbers. For your array, the numbers that are available is 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. And so those would go, there's 6 numbers, there's 6 abilities. You would pick which ability you want to put which one of those in. So I'm going to give it up to you. Would you like to use the array or would you like to roll?
Let's roll. Let's make it more natural. The array seems to be fine, but if we're going to legit do this, it would be best to learn anyone can do the array. You can look in the book and you can do the array. So we're going to show you how to do it if you want to do it more organically.
Exactly. So, organically. And I cannot remember how they do say it to do it this way. Okay, so this is 4 D6s. A D6 is a 6-sided die. It's the cube-looking one. It's the one that comes in Yahtzee or Monopoly or any other normal board game is a D6. So, you get 4 D6.
Cool.
You roll them.
Done.
You drop the lowest.
That's a 3.
Okay. And then, as a personal flair that I do, if you have any ones, you re-roll the ones.
No ones. I got 2 5s and a 3.
Yep. So 2 5s and a 3 is what?
13.
13. So that is the first number. Now, you can do this extremely organically and say that's your strength score. Or you can finish rolling out your abilities and then choose which ability you want to put them on.
So
as a fighter, you probably want something higher than a 13 in your strength score.
We'll make it work. I'll get older.
So, roll the next.
Chaos. It's the chaos.
The chaos is fun.
So, you're saying don't put it in strength.
I would say don't put it in strength yet. Okay,
fine. So we roll again.
Roll again.
Take the lowest. Oh, that was a good one.
That is
3
a good
4s and a 5. So that gives me 13. So far, we're doing real good. Okay, we got 13.
I want you to know, this is the first character that has ever been made with these dice.
Ooh, I'm breaking them in. So far, they're lucky dice. I like 13. 13's good. 13's good. I'm doing this 6 times?
6 times,
okay,
because there are 6 ability scores.
Oh, that's a good one. It goes to, I have 14.
14. All right.
We have improvement. Okay, high roller, no whammy. Here we go. We've got Bupkis, re-rolling the 1. That's better.
Okay, so 4, 3, 3, and 2.
10.
10. That was very close to being not 10.
Yeah. If that had been a 1, that would have been a 7. Something like, ooh, hi, how are you?
There you are.
17.
Okay.
That one's a good one. And last one. Come on, high roller, no whammy. There's a 1. Yeah, that's right. That's better. Okay, 2 4s, 6, and 5. So we'll take the 4. There's 15.
All right. This is a very well-rounded shepherd. As a shepherd, what is the thing you are least likely to be worried about?
Definitely charisma.
Okay, so put your 10 in charisma.
I do have a +1.
It is a +1 because he's human, so your charisma score is now 11.
An 11. Okay.
And that is going to play very, very importantly as we go through here because your charisma is an 11 and page 13, up in the top right corner, it tells you what the modifiers are. For an 11, your modifier, which is going to be in the small bubble. Some people put their score in the big box and the modifier, or the score in the little box and the modifier in the big box. I put my modifier in the little box. For an 11, the modifier is 0.
Okay.
You have an average charisma.
Cool.
All right. So,
now the next one.
What thing, as a fighter and as a shepherd, do you think would be the most important?
Strength. So, Constitution.
Constitution should be your next highest score.
Which was a 15, plus the 1 is a 16.
Because you're a human, jumps up to a 16. So let's jump back to that. An 18, which is what you put in your strength,
yes,
is a +4.
Woot woot.
Okay. A 16 is a +3.
Still good.
Now things start coming together because if you remember, your hit points at first level is 10, which is the maximum on a D10, plus your Constitution modifier,
which is 13.
Yeah. So your
current hit points are 13.
Maximum hit points are 13, and current hit points, because you're not in a fight right now, are also 13.
Yeah, and that's in the middle here.
Yep. So, next, you can choose whichever you want for dexterity, intelligence, or wisdom.
Gonna put dexterity at the 15 because I had a 14,
yep.
And then the last two are 13, so those are 14s.
Because he's human, he gets a +1 to each of those. That's why he's upping the number by 1.
Yeah, and that ought to do.
Now, 14 and 15, both are +2.
Okay.
This was a really, really well-rounded... Positively well-rounded character. It's good. You're better than average. You're slightly better than average when it comes to how quickly you can move, when it comes to how smart you are, and when it comes to how well you can read, how well you can perceive the world. So that's good. That is your ability scores. Now we can start looking at your skills. Okay?
Right.
So I'm not going to have you fill out any numbers on the skills yet, but we'll start with your saving throws, because this is where the proficiency comes into play, right? Remember, I said now that we're getting to the end, everything's starting to get tied back together. You have proficiency in strength saving throws. So you're going to take that modifier on your strength score,
which is a +4.
Which is a +4, and you're going to add the proficiency bonus, which is
2.
2.
So I've got a 6 in strength. And then Constitution is a 3 plus the 2 gives me a 5 in Constitution.
Yes.
So I'm going to do that with just those 2.
Just those 2 because you're proficient in those 2. The other 4, it's just going to be the modifier.
Gotcha. So I got a +2 in dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, and a 0 in charisma.
Yes. So what that means.
It was all right here.
Yep. What that means is, let's say later on in the game, he is going through and there is a trap and it goes off and it is an arrow trap. He stepped on the plate. It's shooting arrows at him. He's going to roll a dexterity saving throw. He's going to use a 20-sided dice for that, a d20. He's going to roll and he's going to add his dexterity saving throw to that, which is a 2. Right? Because he doesn't have proficiency in dexterity saving throws. So he's going to add that. If he gets whatever the difficulty check is for the trap, then with an arrow trap, he's probably not taking any damage. If it's a fire trap, he's probably taking half damage of whatever is rolled. Right? Unless there's other things that factor in there. And so that's generally how the game is played. It's you're rolling, and then you're rolling against specific difficulty checks, and then adding in whatever's on your d20 to whatever number it is that's on there. So you have your ability scores figured out. Let's take a look at your background now.
Do we want to do skills?
We're going to do skills in a bit.
Okay.
Because you still have skills, you still have to pick what you're proficient in. So The reason I didn't have you do that first is because of the background. Background is something that is found on page... They start on page 125, and it tells you what the backgrounds are. You get proficiencies with your background. You get some languages with your background. You get extra equipment with your background. There are some suggested characteristics. You can roll the dice, or you can choose them off of the table that's there. If we want to, we can customize a background for your character, because he's a shepherd. And I don't know that there's any good backgrounds in here, but there's a list of backgrounds. So,
I think the folk hero is probably what I'm going to go with.
So we're going to look at the folk hero, okay? And here is what you get. This one you are going to fill out as we go.
Okay.
Proficiencies. You get animal handling.
Okay, that's a circle in the blob.
And survival.
And survival. You know what is freaking hilarious?
Those are the two.
Those are literally the two that I picked. Yep, on the back of the page. Those are literally the ones I picked.
And so this is why I said, don't fill in those bubbles yet, right? So now you're going to look back at that other page, at the back page.
This page.
This page. The back of this page where you wrote down your skills that you get from being a fighter.
Yeah.
And you're going to pick two more.
Oh. We're going to do perception and acrobatics.
Okay.
Do tricks off the sheep. So
cartwheels in the field.
It works, yeah. Do I fill in the bubbles?
Now you fill in those bubbles.
Okay, acrobatics and where is the one?
Perception.
Right. There it is. Perception. There it is. It's in the P's. It is listed alphabetically.
It is listed alphabetically, yes. So, in other proficiencies, that little box down here.
Yes.
You also are proficient in one type of artisan's tools, and we will pick that in a bit, and in land vehicles, which some people might be thinking, oh, there's cars in D&D. No.
Cart.
No. We're talking a cart, maybe a bicycle.
Maybe. Would a horse count as a land vehicle?
I have, in times in my games, depending on the situation, I have made a horse be considered a land vehicle for the purpose of very specific checks.
But generally not.
Typically, the horse you're going to use animal handling.
Gotcha.
Right?
But fortunately, I have. So.
But wagons, carts, carriages, and let's say maybe you don't have bicycles in your home village, but you get to the big city one day, and there's bicycles.
I can ride a bike naturally. I'm a natural.
He's a natural. He can pick it up. Let's say you get sucked into the astral plane and beyond, and you find yourself driving a car. That's something that, yeah, you might have disadvantage on it the first few times, but you're going to pick it up quick. Right. You know how to steer, how to navigate roads, how to do that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
Yes. So, and then under equipment, you get a couple more things.
Aha, we're ready.
You get a set of artisan's tools, most likely whatever it is that's going to correspond to your proficiency. So we'll get back to that in a second. You get a shovel, an iron pot, a set of common clothes, and 10 gold. So this goes into your coin area.
There's the little circles right inside that box there.
Yep. So those circles are actually what I printed off. The labels are really, really light. The top one is for copper pieces. The second one is for silver. The third is for electrum. The fourth is for gold. The fifth is for platinum. Those are the common denominations in Dungeons and Dragons. So,
gotcha. I am a rich shepherd with 10 whole gold.
You have 10 gold. Let's finish up your skills now because you have your proficiencies.
Right.
So acrobatics is dexterity based.
So it's a +2.
So it's going to be a 2, but you're also proficient in it, so it's 2
It's a 4.
plus 2 because of the proficiency bonus. So that is a 4.
Got it.
Animal handling.
Intelligence? No.
What does it say there? It says wisdom.
Wisdom. Full of wisdom. 4. Perception is also wisdom, so that's a 4. And survival is also wisdom. I'm so wise. I got lots of 4s. They're literally all 4s.
So, and then you're going to go in the ones that aren't filled in with the bubble, and you're just going to put the number for the modifier of that one. So, Arcana is intelligence.
That's a 2.
Athletics is strength.
That's a 4.
Deception is charisma.
That is a 0.
History is intelligence.
That is a 2.
Insight is wisdom.
That is 2.
Intimidation is charisma.
That is 0.
Investigation is intelligence.
2.
Medicine is wisdom.
2.
Nature is intelligence.
2.
You already did perception. Performance is charisma.
0.
Persuasion is charisma.
0.
Religion is intelligence.
That's a 2.
Sleight of hand is dexterity.
That is a 2.
Stealth is dexterity.
And that is a 2.
So,
Lots of 2.
now there's one more box right below all of it. It says passive. Wisdom, perception.
So that is a 2.
No.
That is not a 2. It's a 3.
Should be a 4.
Oh.
But it is passive because you are proficient in perception.
Oh. Gotcha.
Anytime you have a passive skill, passive perception is the only one that's on the character sheet. But there are other passives that can be taken into account for. Passive stealth, passive insight,
Okay.
Passive acrobatics, right? Do you fall down when walking up the stairs?
Valid.
Right? There are passive things to look at. And so anytime you look at a passive skill check, it is when you are not necessarily putting forth effort to do a thing, but you're still doing the thing, right? So passive perception is specifically, what do you notice on general? And it is not 4.
It is not a 4. I lied. I thought you said 4.
Your perception is 4.
Right.
Your passive skills are always going to be 10 plus whatever your skill is.
14.
So your passive perception is a 14. That is the start of it. Now, we're moving still with the folk hero. There are a couple of other things, right? Defining event. You previously pursued a simple profession among the peasantry, perhaps as a farmer, miner, servant, shepherd, woodcutter, or gravedigger, but something happened that set you on a different path and marked you for greater things. Mm-hmm. Choose or randomly determine a defining event that marked you as a hero of the people. Now, you can choose through these. These are things like stood up to a tyrant's agents, saved people during a natural disaster, stood alone against a terrible monster, led a militia to fight an army, a lord rescinded an unpopular decree after I led a symbolic act of protest against it. You know, things like that.
Gotcha.
And I just picked 5 that are out of the 10. The one
Where
that
would this
seems
go?
most likely, this is just something I would put it under traits. It's just something that kind of gives you a little bit more to role play with. It would make sense that you saved people during a natural disaster.
Yeah. Save.
Right?
So, save people, natural disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Done.
Now that is your defining event. You get a feature from your background. Your feature is rustic hospitality.
Okay.
Since you came from the ranks of the common folk, you fit in among them with ease. You can find a place to hide, rest, or recuperate among other commoners, unless you have shown yourself to be a danger to them. They will shield you from the law or anyone else searching for you, though they will not risk their lives.
Right.
So basically, you're traveling on the road, and you need a place to stay for the night, and you look over there and see a shepherd's house, you got this. You got a place to stay for the night. Hey, I'm traveling from the village of what? Did we figure out a name for your village yet?
No.
We will figure out a name for your village.
Okay.
Traveling from whatever the name of the village is, I'm just passing through. I'm on my way over here. Can I stay the night? Maybe he lets you sleep in the spare room. Maybe he puts you in the barn, but you've got a place to stay for the night.
Out of the rain and the weather and the whatever.
Out of the rain, out of the weather, and you don't have to pay for an inn.
Which is awesome because we're cheap.
And poor.
The cheap
you have,
over the
You have 10 gold, which really equates to about $10. Suggested characteristics. This goes more into how you are going to role play. So this is your personality trait, ideal, bond, and flaw. You get to choose 2 personality traits, 1 ideal, 1 bond, and 1 flaw. Personality traits you can roll on the table that's listed, or you can just pick. Personality trait for the folk heroes. The first one is you judge people by their actions, not their words.
Sounds about right.
Second, if someone is in trouble, you're always ready to help.
That also sounds right.
Third, when you set your mind to something, you follow through no matter what gets in your way.
This is going to be way harder than it looks.
Fourth, you have a strong sense of fair play and always try to find the most equitable solution to arguments.
Just smash them with the hammer.
So probably not 4.
Not 4.
5, you're confident in your own abilities and do what you can to instill confidence in others.
Naturally happens, of course.
Okay. 6, thinking is for other people, you prefer action.
Yeah, that one makes sense too.
Okay. 7, you misuse long words in an attempt to sound smarter.
No.
Probably not for you though.
No.
I get bored easily when am I going to get on with my destiny?
Nope. Originally, the shepherd guy was very happy where he was. So we're going to say, if someone's in trouble, I always help.
Okay.
Help.
So that's number
trouble.
2 on the list.
And we're going to say, confident in my abilities, instill confidence in others. I know what I'm doing and I do it well.
Are you doing that one, or are you doing thinking is for other people, you prefer action?
Nah, definitely the confidence one.
Okay, the confidence one. Okay, so that one is number 5.
Okay, what are my ideals?
So, turning the page to 132. By the way, Folk Hero can be found on 131. Page 132, ideals. Respect. Good people deserve to be treated with dignity and respect.
I like that.
Fairness. No one should get preferential treatment before the law. No one is above the law. Probably not something you would have thought about.
Not chaotic. Not chaotic. Like, realistically, just don't get caught.
Yeah. And not something a shepherd's really likely to think about.
Yeah.
Right? He's worried about his sheep.
Wolves eat the baby sheep just as much as they eat the adult sheep. Yeah. That's not fair. That's just how it goes.
Yep. Freedom. Tyrants must not be allowed to oppress the people.
I pay taxes. Just saying.
Do you?
As a sheep, the king is collecting my sheep. I have to pay the taxes, otherwise I lose it.
Maybe.
That's how I look at it.
Might. If I become strong, I can take what I want.
No.
Sincerity. There's no good in pretending to be something I'm not.
That's it.
Destiny. Nothing and no one can steer me away from my higher calling.
I only get one?
You only get one.
Okay. Destiny. No, sincerity it is.
Sincerity. Okay. Now, if you couldn't choose, we would have you roll, because it is a d6.
Ha!
That would be might. If you become strong, you take what you want.
I thought it was actually one I picked.
So, bond. So this is a little bit more of how you ties into how you view the world and whatnot. You have a family, but you have no idea where they are.
Yeah, not us.
You work the land, you love the land, and you will protect the land.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Proud noble once gave you a horrible beating, and you will take your revenge on any bully.
Nope.
Tools are a symbol of your past life, and you carry them so that you will never forget your roots.
Nope.
I protect those who cannot protect themselves.
That sounds right.
I wish my childhood sweetheart had come with me to pursue my destiny.
Not as the poor shepherd boy. I'm going to go with 2. Work the land, love the land. Land.
Yep. And as we talked about, that's part of the reason for his journey in the first place.
Best.
So.
The fate gods would have me for.
Your tools.
Tools are the symbol of my past life, and I can't get over it. Well, good thing I'm not trusting the luck gods.
Yep. So, your flaw.
Okay. The one thing that makes me human.
This is well, you were human to begin with.
It's true.
This is the one thing that makes you
human.
Realistic. The tyrant who rules my land will stop at nothing to see you killed.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
No. You're convinced of the significance of your destiny and blind to your shortcomings and the risk of failure.
No.
Nope. The people who knew you when you were young know your shameful secret, so you can never go home.
No, I've done that.
You have a weakness for the vices of the city, especially hard drink.
I do like that.
Secretly, you believe that things would be better if you were a tyrant lording over the land.
I don't like that.
and you have trouble trusting your
Ooh,
allies.
we don't trust others. I instill confidence in people for what I do. I don't like others. No trust.
So you're not even going to trust the members of your village?
Nope.
Okay.
I can do it better than they can do it. Otherwise, they'd have been able to do it themselves in the first place. The luck gods would have me say a 3. People know me when I was young, and I'm shameful.
They know your shameful secret.
Peeping in the windows. Throwing sheep at others.
Sheeping in windows.
Yes. It's the worst when I just can't keep the sheep on my side.
Your equipment. You have some equipment that we need to look a little bit closer at.
The artisan tools.
The artisan tools, and also we need to figure out how you fight. There are a number of tools available in the artisan tools in the player's handbook. This is found on page 154.
Dragon chess set.
That is not an artisan tool. That is a game.
That sucks.
So, alchemist supplies.
Nah.
Do you play with chemistry sets?
Nope.
Okay.
Not as a shepherd.
Brewer's supplies.
Nah.
Do you make alcohol?
Not as a shepherd. Maybe. We'll put a pin in that one. I don't see the folk hero as getting super drunk all the time.
Calligrapher's supplies.
No.
You got fancy handwriting? No. Carpenter's tools.
Potentially.
Potentially. Cartographer's tools.
Not a map maker.
So, map making is also known as cartography. That's what that would be. Cobbler's tools.
Shepherds used to make stone walls, especially in England, Ireland, Scotland.
But that wouldn't be cobbling. That would be masonry.
Ah, never mind. We're not cobblers.
A cobbler makes shoes. Cook's utensils. Speaking of peach
Put a
cobbler.
pin in that one.
Cook's utensils. And that is something that a shepherd would.
Oh yeah, he's
Very
eating out
possibly.
there with the sheep.
Glassblower's tools.
No.
Jeweler's tools.
No.
Leatherworker's tools. Possibly.
Maybe. Yeah, put a pin in that one.
Masonry.
Maybe. Pin in that one.
Painter supplies.
No.
And we're not talking painting a house. We're talking Leonardo da Vinci.
Little tree. I like how you went with the Renaissance one, and I'm going freaking Bob.
Potter's tools.
No.
Okay. Smith's tools.
Nope. I wouldn't be a shepherd if I had Smith's tools.
Tinker's tools.
No.
You're not repairing your pot.
Nope.
Weaver's tools.
Possibly, because I don't want to be naked. Can't be a good hero if you're naked. I'm just going to put that as a personal rule. You make your own decisions if you want to be a naked hero.
Conan the Barbarian would disagree.
He's a barbarian. I'm a shepherd. There's a difference.
Woodcarver's tools.
Possibly.
Now, woodcarver's tools and carpentry tools are different tool sets.
Right. One's a lot finer detail.
Yes. Cook's utensils or leatherworkers were what you were looking at, right?
Yeah, I think cook's utensils is going to be it. That's going to be the artisan tool, cook's utensils.
Okay, so that's going to be that. And you also have proficiency in it.
So I can cook like a mother trucker.
Right? So this is no tool proficiency from your class, but you are proficient in cook's utensils. Your armor class.
Yes.
Show them where that is on the page.
Right here.
Okay. Your armor class is decided by a number of different factors, but typically there is a formula. Now, 3.5, you could add different types of armors and get different types of bonuses, and you can stack bonuses and things like that depending on what the situation is. With 5th edition, you don't. You get whatever the formula is for your armor. So, let's say you are going with just your normal clothes.
Right.
Your armor is going to be 10 plus your dexterity. But you aren't going with just normal clothes because what armor do you have?
Leather.
Leather armor. So, this is slightly better than going with just your clothes. It is 11 plus your dexterity.
Okay.
So, your dexterity modifier is a 2
Yes.
plus 11. Your armor class is a 13. Initiative is another blank one you have up there. That one's really, really simple. It is your dexterity bonus.
Which is a 2.
Which is a 2. For most people, that's all it will ever be is your dexterity bonus. And we're going to go to weapons. So, this section right here where it says attacks and spellcasting.
Right here.
The only section on his page that hasn't really been written into yet. Attacks and spellcasting.
Yes.
You have a longbow. So put that at the top.
Longbow.
And then you're going to go to page 149, which is where your weapons are. You are going to find the longbow.
Which is ranged all the way at the bottom, 1d8 piercing.
So, 1d8 piercing, but hold on. That's going to go under the damage type.
Okay.
Okay? So you have, in this section, you have 3 different areas that are shaded, and then a whole bunch of lines. The first section of shading is longbow. The second section of shading is attack bonus. Here's where your proficiency in weaponry comes in, okay? A longbow is a ranged weapon, and if we look, attack rolls on page 194. When you make an attack, your attack roll determines whether your attack hits or misses. To make an attack, roll a d20 at the appropriate modifiers. If the total of the roll plus modifiers equals or exceeds the target's armor class, the attack hits. We just went through that.
Right.
When a character makes an attack roll, the 2 most common modifiers to the roll are an ability modifier and the character's proficiency bonus. When a monster makes an attack roll, it uses whatever modifier is provided in its stat block. Now, for those of you who are DMs out there, that is generally based off the same thing. They just don't really break that down for you. Ability modifier. The ability modifier used for a melee weapon attack is strength, but a longbow is not melee weapon. The ability modifier used for a ranged weapon attack is dexterity. So, your dexterity is +2.
2, right.
You are also proficient in longbows. So, you get your proficiency bonus.
So it's a 4.
So that is a +4. So in the shaded areas, you've got 3 lines that are shaded. Each line is separated out into 3 sections. Longbow, the name of the weapon is the first section. The attack bonus is the second section. The damage bonus is the third. Now, your damage, the bow does 1d8. But there's more. Because when it comes to damage rolls, each weapon, spell, and harmful monster ability specifies the damage it deals. You roll the damage dice, add any modifiers, and apply the damage to your target. Magic weapons, special abilities, and other factors can grant a bonus to damage. When attacking with a weapon, you add your ability modifier, the same modifier used for the attack roll, to the damage. So that's not just a d8, it's a d8 plus your dexterity modifier.
Which is 2.
Which is a 2. The next one you had was hand axes, right?
2 hand axes. Yes.
So, a hand axe is a melee weapon. So, what are you going to use for your attack roll with a hand axe?
That is strength.
Strength plus proficiency, because he's proficient in all weapons.
Which is a +6.
Yeah, or not all weapons, sorry, in simple and martial weapons.
Yes.
So that is a +6 to attack. What that means, he's rolling the d4 or the d20, and then he adds 6 to whatever that is. And then the damage type, or the damage, is a d6.
Okay, plus
your ability modifier, which is
a
4.
Yeah, the 4.
Yep. So, with his hand axes, he could potentially, if he rolled a 6 on the d6, he could deal 10 damage with that hand axe. And then, was that the only weaponry you had?
2 martial weapons.
2 martial weapons?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, let's look at the martial weapons. You have your choice. Battle axe, flail, glaive, great axe, great sword, halberd, lance, longsword, maul, morning star, pike, rapier, scimitar, short sword, trident, warpick, warhammer, or whip.
Probably, because I do specialize in big weapons, it would need to be a larger, probably more like a warhammer.
I would say go with the warhammer and one of the two-handed, right? So the great sword or the great axe.
Yeah. We'll do the...
Because of your great weapon fighting, you need to be holding a weapon two-handed in order to get that bonus from the great weapon fighting feat. A warhammer, this says it's versatile. What that means is you can use one hand, only one hand if you want, or you can use 2.
Right.
So
we'll do Warhammer,
and then one other.
the Great Axe.
The Great Axe. Okay.
Both of those will have a +6.
Yep. So the Warhammer, this one, like I said, it's versatile. If you're using it one-handed, it's a D8 plus your strength modifier. If you're using it two-handed, it gives that damage dice in the parentheses right after versatile, which is a D10.
+4
because of your strength. For the Great Axe, it's a D12. Now, a Great Axe is always two-handed, so it's not a D12 or something else. It's just a straight-up D12 when you hit with it.
Okay, then the last question I have, what is up with the temporary hit points, the death saves, and the inspiration?
Okay, so temporary hit points. That is a blank thing on your page right now. There are certain abilities that characters have that can give you temporary hit points.
Okay.
Now, what that is your current hit point total is 13. Right? It is your maximum hit points is 13. If you participate in a ritual called the Hero's Feast, it's a spell. You're far too low of a character to even have access to it for any of your party to have access to it. But let's say you meet up with a mage or somebody who does have it, and they cast Hero's Feast. That gives you temporary hit points.
Gotcha.
Those temporary hit points go on top of your damage so that it doesn't touch your actual health at all.
Gotcha.
Your temporary hit points are always taken away first. So if you get 20 temporary hit points on top of your 13 and you get 20 damage dealt to you, when the time for your temporary hit points wears out, you're still not out those 20 hit points.
Gotcha.
That's the temporary hit points. Inspiration. Inspiration is something that can be given by the DM. It basically, for whatever reason the DM chooses, usually it's just I feel like giving it to you, you get a D20. And so anytime you make a roll, if you don't like that roll, you can pick up that D20 and roll it. And then you've used your inspiration.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. The death saving throws. That one is a little bit more involved with combat. When you drop to 0 hit points, you fall unconscious. You don't die.
Oh.
When you fall unconscious, you start making death saving throws. 3 successes, and you're back up to 1 hit point, and you're awake, and you're able to move on and possibly take a health potion or whatever. 3 failed death saving throws, and your character is dead.
Ah.
Now there's tricks to it, because if you have a natural 20, if you roll your d20 and you get a 20, I should probably explain what makes it a success or a failure. If you get a 10 or higher, it is a success.
Aha.
If it is lower than 10, it is a failure. If, however, you get a 20 on the dice, it is a automatic success, and you are automatically at 1 hit point and awake.
Gotcha.
If you get a natural 1, so if you roll a 1 on the dice, it is a loss of 2 death saving throws immediately.
Okay, well that has been lengthy, but we accomplished a lot. It's a really good place to be at. What are we doing next time?
That's what I was about to ask you. What do you want to do next time? Do you want to meet the rest of the party?
We better meet the rest of the party, and I guess we better start. Don't we?
I'll say let's meet the rest of the party. As far as how party setup is done, and then we'll run through a one-on-one combat with you where you are facing off against someone else so that we get a feel for how combat works.
Gotcha.
Okay? And then I don't know that we're going to take this much further with this group, but for next time, let's meet the party and let's do a single combat and maybe a trial of some sort, like some skill check issues.
Gotcha.
And we'll run through so that you kind of understand the mechanics of the game. And then we will probably take a break from D&D for a bit maybe, and so that I can prepare, because I have wanted for a while now to do an all warlock party with all the different types of warlocks that there are. And so that's kind of what I want to do for our actual campaign that we're going to do, is an all warlock party. and maybe we won't do that. Maybe we'll continue on with this, and we'll have people join us and play the rest of the party for that. Before we end, we need a name for your village.
Let us call it Brighton.
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 Okay, this is the village of Brighton.
I'm going to write at the top. Village Brighton. Sounds nice. I'd live there. Okay. So, we do hope that your history is going to be as fun as our history, especially as we keep going and creating more of it. We hope that you also found that this video was super helpful, because I know it was very informative for me. And we'll look forward to catching you the next time when we have battle. So, huzzah!
Huzzah!